everyone, welcome to my podcast. I'm Hilton Forrester and I've got a great guest of mine with me. His name is Jesus Eddie Campa, and he's all the way over in America. What I want to do is introduce you, Eddie. He's actually spent 27 years in the public service, and he's also an entrepreneur. So welcome to the call, Eddie.
Thank you, Hilton. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being on.
Great. Okay. After 27 years in service, in the public service and the law enforcement field, you retired from that, and now you're actually an entrepreneur. My first question to yourself is: could you first of all tell the listeners a bit more about you and how you got to this moment?
Sure, absolutely. So I was born in El Paso, Texas, to a single parent. I joined the El Paso County Sheriff's Office in 1994. I retired from there 20 years later as the Chief Deputy of Law Enforcement, where I oversaw narcotics, criminal investigation, support services, and patrol. I retired from there and went on to become the police chief at Ector County Independent School District.
Okay.
And then I went on and became the chief of police in Marshall, Texas for 3 years. Then I became a state director for the Council on Law Enforcement Education and Training up in Oklahoma, in the state of Oklahoma. And on December 20th, 2020, I completed 27 years of law enforcement. And that's when I said, okay, it is time to retire for the second time, but this time for real, for good. And I went ahead and retired for real.
Yeah.
And started up. Well, actually, my businesses have been around for a long time since then. But of course, I finally retired, and now I'm running those businesses full time.
Awesome. So I want to talk about your services when you was the 27. Is there anything what really stands out in that time with you?
Well, there's a lot of things that stand out in those long 27 years. I guess the one thing that stands out the most is just that during those 27 years, I was privileged enough to be able to help the communities that I represented. I represented El Paso, Ector County, Marshall, the state of Oklahoma, and having the opportunity to go out there and serve as a public servant and be able to help people that needed help, or administer new programs and develop new programs. That was always the blessing in disguise. And that's what made my career all together. I mean, there was a lot of ups and downs. And of course, I'm sure everybody would rather hear about the exciting adventures of the car chases and the investigations. But when you wrap it all up, what really fulfilled my career was the community service that I was able to provide to the citizens.
Oh, beautiful. That's wonderful. So you're now doing business, and could you tell me what type of businesses you're running and that particular journey now where you are?
Absolutely. So I'm currently I've actually got I'm the owner and CEO of America's Best Strategic Security Group, which is a security organization which provides security consulting around the country, and primarily in Texas. We also have a security guard service attached to it. We do private investigations, background checks.
Okay.
We install cameras and alarms. And then, of course, my other business is Leading Through Adversity, which is a leadership development mentoring program that we just started back in 2019. And that's been going very well. Thank you.
Good. So it's saying here you're doing leadership, you're an entrepreneur, mentor, coaching, community development. I'd like to just touch on the area of coaching. What are you finding now with, I guess, the youth, maybe what you work with, or the people in general to do those areas?
Right. So, one of the things that I've discovered about leadership, and I think that is one of the things that's, the country and the world is experiencing a lack of leadership. There is a lack of true leaders. There is a definition of the word leadership that's defined by many dictionaries that are out there. You'll find it. However, leadership is now looked at more as a perspective. People look at it and they assume what their definition of a leadership of a leader is, and that's what they run with.
Yeah.
There's all types of leaders. Everybody in one way, shape, or form is a leader somehow. However, when it comes down to organizational operations, you got to actually understand what a true leader is and what the leader's job is. While I understand that, employees and staff and our subordinates are very important because they're a very key, if not the most important key of our operations,
Yeah.
sometimes you got to understand that the leader's not there to be your friend. The leader is there to lead the organization and lead the vision, which a lot of leaders get confused between wanting to be friends and wanting to be a leader. And
Yes.
then a lot of subordinates get confused between he's my boss, he's my leader, and he's also my friend. Now, you can't be a friend to those that you lead. You can be empathetic and supportive, but it's just what we're trying to develop leadership and show the difference to those leaders that may be struggling with that, because we're all human and we're social creatures and we all want to be liked.
Yes.
And if you want to be liked as a leader, well, you need to understand that there's a difference between being liked and being respected.
Yeah. Yeah. I can understand that. And it's definitely something we need now for the next generation. I want to also mention to you about your book as well, Leading Through Adversity, which is going to be out on the 4th of July. What inspired you to write that particular book?
So, I've actually been writing that book for about 6 years now.
Oh,
And
wow.
I kept changing my direction with that book. And, it's it's called Leading Through Adversity, Unmasking Leadership is the title of the book. And the reason it's called Unmasking Leadership is basically for the reasons that I stated just right now, is that, a lot of us take on leadership roles and don't really understand what that leadership role consists of. And a lot of people aren't really prepared for what comes with leadership. And a lot of people really don't get told the dark side of leadership. So this is where we kind of unmask it and show you the truth about leadership. And I'm 48 years old and I still got a long way to go before, hopefully, before I end up in my final resting spot. I hope I got at least another 30 years in me. And I still think I got a lot to offer. And I think the book, breaks down leadership. It breaks down the different types of leaderships. But at the same time, it also talks about, and it's a little bit of a in your face kind of book where it tells you, look, if you want to be a leader, you have to be a genuine leader because it comes from you, and you have to be a leader who's willing to make the tough decisions. Look, just because, especially in law enforcement,
Yes.
a lot of law enforcement officers get confused and they think that their sergeants, lieutenants, or captains, or commanders, or their chiefs are great leaders if they let them get away with anything. Oh, he's a great leader. Why? Oh, because I got in trouble the other day and he didn't do anything. And
Yeah.
me and my chief is great because we go play golf and we drink beer together and I get away with everything. He's a great leader. Yeah, no, that's not a great leader. That's not a great leader. Great leader is somebody who holds people accountable.
Yes.
Is empathetic to every situation. And that's what the book touches on. It touches about the differences about being a liked leader and being a respected leader.
Beautiful. That's great. I can't wait to get a copy of it. It sounds as though it's going to be a great read. So you mentioned leadership, and when it comes to leaders, we have a kind of an area what we push ourselves forward with. What would you say in terms of, like, you've got people you employ and people you work with? What are the examples of leadership in terms of that?
Well, that's the thing. One of the questions that we ask here at Leading Through Adversity: are leaders made or are they born? And it's the general consensus. A lot of people think that leaders are born. You're born with that leadership quality. And why, I believe you are, because I think that down the road, everybody is got a leadership ability. However, leadership is something that's taught. Leaders are made.
Yeah.
It depends on how you nurture that leadership trait and how you grow it and develop it. And that's why there's some people who develop at a very late time because, they've never really been put in an adverse situation. And then once that adversity comes out, they actually become a leader. And so one of the things that we do and we strive for is developing those leadership traits. We have a lot of CEOs and managers from across the country, different companies that come to us, and we help them grow. We help them by being their sounding board. They bounce off ideas off of us. They're not alone.
Okay.
So, leaders are individuals. Plain and simple, a leader is someone who doesn't think that they're always right and has an open mind and has the mind of a visionary.
Okay, awesome. I also see it here that you, through the police force, there was a lot of, you impacted the racial diversions. Could you explain what that area is as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Being in El Paso basically all my life and spending the majority of my career in El Paso. El Paso is a very diverse and accepting community. We've got all different forms of races. We've got Caucasians, Hispanics, African Americans, people from Latin America, all over. I mean, we got people from all over the place. We have one of the largest military bases here, Fort Bliss. We've got Germans, Armenians, everything. So when I was hired to lead the MPD in East Texas, they hired me because they were very racially divided. The
Okay.
community did not like the police. The police did not like the community, and the city I took over was a very racially divided community. It was a place where slaves had been sold and disciplined back in the slave days. So you can understand that it was something that comes from their roots. It's an embedded hatred for skin color.
Yeah.
For looking different.
Yeah.
So I always joke around about the fact that I was hired because they weren't going to hire, another Caucasian, and they were never going to hire an African American. So they hired this little Mexican caramel guy who would come in and fix that racial gap, and we did. We did that. We did that through an initiative that I created called No Colors, No Labels, and that initiative was designed to remove the preconceived notion that the police were racially motivated. And we did that by, inclusion. What we did is we created a cultural awareness meal that we had once a month, celebrating the different races within our community. And we would bring in guest speakers from that race that we were highlighting to
Okay.
talk about the differences between, their community and their race and everybody else. And in the end, what we discovered is that all the races are pretty much alike. We all believe in, we all have this pretty much the same thing. We eat different foods, but it's usually food for survival. Our culture is pretty much the same. And, that started bringing people together to help us lower the crime rate by 20%. We had less homicides. It was inclusion. So, yeah, that really helped me. And the community really accepted it. The sad part was that the police department really didn't. My agency was 95% Caucasian, 1% Hispanic, 1%, 2% African American, and then the rest was just, a mixture of different races. But those 3 years that we were there, the community itself really embraced it.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the police department and the officers, they weren't ready for it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because in 2017, you was named the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Humanitarian of the Year. What was that
Yes,
about?
that was awesome. That was one of the highlights of my career, being named the Martin Luther King Humanitarian of the Year. Basically, because of all the racial issues that we were having and all the programs and initiatives that we created to bridge that racial gap,
Okay.
and the fact that I was out in the community all the time and working with them and being inclusive and empathetic about everything. The community got together and the NAACP and Bethesda Baptist Church got together and named me the Martin Luther King Humanitarian of the Year.
Wow. Wow.
That was
That's
awesome.
something which is, you must be proud of that, I guess.
I am. I'm very proud that award hangs very proud in the front of my office, and I'm very proud of it.
Good. Okay. Awesome. So let me touch on your business then. The business what you're actually running. Could you expand on the businesses what you're running?
Sure. So, I mean, here it's a little hard to talk about America's best strategic security group. So we're going to go ahead and just talk about leading through adversity.
Okay.
Because America's best strategic security group is based out of Texas, and we only do work in the United States. But leading through adversity is internationally and nationally known. I am an international and nationally known speaker on leadership. So.
Okay.
Our services basically, like I said earlier, include leadership development, mentoring, coaching, building strategic plans. We also do what we call executive preparation. And what we do in that executive preparation is basically anybody that is preparing to move up the ladder and is about to have an interview for that next level or anything like that. We prepare you. We put an executive panel together and we interview you before you actually get interviewed. This way, you know what kind of questions are going to be asked. Not the exact questions that they're going to ask, because we don't know what the company's going to ask. But
Yes.
our panel is deprived of many experts and executives who come together and ask these questions. And we interview you and we show you how to polish yourself. What to properly wear and things like that. One of the things that we're really working hard right now on is trying to develop our junior leadership program. We feel
Right.
that it's kind of hard to change our methods when you're 48, 50, 60 years old. They say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So we want to start with the junior leadership program. Anybody within the age of 15 years of age and up to 20, 25 would be considered junior leadership. And what we would do is teach them the basics of life. In school here, at least in America, we've gotten away from the fundamentals of schooling. We don't even show you how to write in cursive anymore. We don't show you the life hacks that you need for life. Like if you're going to be an entrepreneur or a business person, and you don't know how to balance a checkbook, you don't know the first thing about a budget, you don't know, because they don't teach you that, because we're too busy teaching you about world history and things that absolutely are important but don't make sense in today's practical world.
Okay.
So we show you how to balance a checkbook, how to create a budget, how to develop a budget, what a strategic plan is. You'd be surprised how many times you talk to these young adults and you talk to them about, what's your plan, what's your strategy, and they're
Yes.
like, oh.
Yes.
So we're hoping to be able to build the entrepreneurs of tomorrow today by giving them the basic leadership traits that they need to be successful.
Great. Okay. And in your personal life, what are the mistakes you've personally made in business?
Hilton, you told me this was a 45-minute show. If you want me to talk to you about my mistakes, we're going to be here till probably 2025.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay. Well, I think the main ones, because I could go on with mine and it would be 2 hours. So,
right. Professionally, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've let my pride and my ego get in the way, which is something that's not a good thing. As you grow and you develop and you change, you learn to, one of the things, let me rephrase that. One of the things that I used to do is I used to listen to the noise, what we call the noise. And that was all the haters and the people that would come out and talk, badmouth you and say things about you. And I used to let it really bother me. And basically, it almost allowed them to define who I was. And it wasn't until I learned that, you know what, I really don't care what you say. You don't define me. You don't pay my bills. You don't do this. And I moved forward, that things started expanding and getting better for me.
okay.
There's always going to be those haters. So, you just move on. But mistakes is just remove your ego. That's number one. Remove it.
That's a big one. It really is a big one. That's something what affected me. I was prideful as well. We tend to go through these things. But when it comes to the pride, what do you think changed it for you? What was the moment in terms of that?
I think once I realized that nobody was going to hit harder than life, I thought that I was I guess the moment that, and it's funny because I really can't pinpoint the moment it changed, but I can tell you the journey. As every day went by and I realized things and I saw things, it was small adjustments that I made because I saw that they needed to be made.
Yes.
And eventually one day, I was talking to a friend and that person's like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "You've changed so much." And I'm like,
Wow.
"What do you mean?" And they're like, "Yeah, this and this and that. You're not that same person." And I said, "Oh, well, that's a good thing." That's a good thing. I'm glad I'm not that person. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah. So it was kind of a gradual thing, and I really didn't notice it, but everybody else around me was noticing it.
Okay. And do you think that change affected your inner circle, your family, and your
Absolutely. When you get into leadership positions, your inner circle becomes very small. It becomes very small, but then you have to be careful because even as small as it is, you always have those people that are just there to see what you can do for them because you're the leader, you're the person, and you got to be able to weed your way out of that. I got this saying that says, keep your inner circle small and never let the same snake bite you twice. You know, I've been bit a lot of times because of what I could do for people. And here's the thing, sometimes it's funny because sometimes people say, you're angry. I'm like, no, I'm not angry. I'm just tired of being used. I'm tired of being used and manipulated, that, I'm never going to allow that to happen to me ever again. You weren't there with me during my struggles. Why should you be there during our prosperous times?
Yes, yeah, I can understand the change with that. Okay, so touching on the book, we're leadership through adversity. I know it's out in on July the 4th, you stated, and it's where can people find that on?
So the book will be available on Amazon, anywhere that you can buy books, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's available in hard copy. It's available in paperback. It's also available on ebook. They're trying to convince me to do where I read it, but I hate the sound of my own voice, and I think it would just put me to sleep. It's actually a very exciting book. It'll also be available on my website. We'll also have copies of it when we go and we do our speaking. If this COVID thing ever goes away and allows us to travel again,
Yes,
to conferences and stuff like that. So we'll have it with us. But the best place to get it is going to be through Barnes and Noble and of course Amazon. And for $19.95, you get 135 pages and 7 chapters worth of Eddie Campa's knowledge on leadership. And what I think it is, it's a little unique because it's not your traditional book. It's kind of that book on leadership that, and excuse my expression, please, to your listening audience, it removes the bullshit from what leadership is.
yes.
So yeah.
It's a book what I would read then. That's for sure.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of people who are doing that. They mislead you and things. So
Yeah, and one of the things that I have found out through life is that, as the years have gone by, people have a problem with the truth. They people love to perceive what is true, and we've seen that right now. The last 4 years. I'm not going to turn this political, but the last 4 years, something really went wrong in the world where everybody has this perception or perspective of what leadership is, and that's not what it is.
yes, yeah, wonderful. Okay, so my last question then, Eddie, is how would you want to be remembered in terms of when I know you've gone from one career now and you're doing the business aspects in terms of that.
And it's kind of funny because I've often thought about that, because I'm not really into legacies. I'm not really into, I want to be remembered for, I want to leave this or I want to do that. All I want, which it is kind of a legacy. I mean, I just want my kids and my family to know that I never gave up. Everything I did for them, to try to move us forward and be able to provide for my family. Of course, sometimes those things that I did sometimes cost me a little bit of money and actually hurt my family more than it did, because we all fail. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna put it to you this way: I had one of my critics, one of my haters, one day. He was bad mouthing me on a blog, and he said, "But you know what? The one thing I got to give this guy is, damn, he's persistent. He doesn't go away."
Wow.
And it's like, and I don't engage, on social media and attacks and anything like that. But I just keep moving forward, and we keep landing on our feet, and we keep rising, and we keep rising, and we keep rising. And they're trying to tear you down. They're so busy trying to tear you down that they don't spend any time building themselves up. So he's just like, this guy, the harder we tear him down, the higher he goes. And it's like, well, it's because I don't let your noise impact me anymore.
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Eddie Campa,
My pleasure.
for your time today. Is there any last words you want to add to what you've said?
No, I just, I hope everybody enjoyed it. And, if you did enjoy it and you want to see more of us, please, visit our website at leadingthrough-adversity.com or jesusedicampa.com. I'm trying to grow my Instagram, and I'm having a hard time. Not that I want to become Instagram famous or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's a good avenue. And, if people would just follow us at leading_through_adversity_ on Instagram. That's not, just on Instagram. So if you find us Leading Through Adversity and just follow and like us. You'll see clips of me and inspirational quotes and stuff like that. And we're not trying to sell you anything on Instagram. So it's just, it's if you need to pick me up, you go there and you'll find some stuff that will pick you up.
Awesome. It's so wonderful, your contribution to the world, which is wonderful. Thank you so much, Eddie, and we will catch up real soon, yeah?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Bye.